Class Data Story resource is a tool to help teachers analyse different sets of data to support the planning of learning experiences. Data gathered can be used to determine the next steps in supporting the planning of learning experiences that cater to the varying levels students are working at. Using the monitoring tools and other data available, you can plan according to the needs of particular students. Today, I'm planning for my class 8.2. We've just recently completed collaboratively analysing student writing samples. When we examine the writing for this class of students, we see that I have 6.6% of my students in this class who scored a total of between 1 and 9. I have 9 out of 30 students who received a total score of between 10 and 14. I have 33.3% of my students who received a total score of between 15 and 19, and 9 of my students are at the benchmark of 20 to 24. But what does the data really say about what these students can demonstrate and what I need to do next? So for my students who received the total score of between 1 and 9, when analysing their writing, I can see that purpose and audience needs to be a clear focus for them. For the students who received a total score of between 10 and 14, they need a focus on purpose, audience, and subject matter in order to move their learning forward. For the students in the 15 to 19 range, I can see from their writing that text structure and organisation needs to be an explicit focus of my next teaching and learning with them. For the students on 20 to 24, I need to provide them with quality models of texts and create learning experiences that focus on text structure and organisational features. I'm also going to draw on the data available via PAT reading. So when analysing this data, it's for the previous year for this group of students. And I can see that 8 out of 30 students in my class are sitting on a scale score of between 100 and 122. I have 40% of my students who are on a scale score of between 123 and 136. I have 7 out of my 30 students who are average or above average with their scale score of 137 to 146, and 10% of my students are well above average with a scale score of 147 to 152. But what does this mean? And what does this really say? So when I drill down into the data and I examine the typical patterns in the explicit skills required to effectively comprehend, I can see that all of my students need a focus on interpreting explicit information in my next cycle of learning and teaching. I also need to create opportunities, as most students need some explicit teaching around interpreting by making inferences. I have some students who require some focused teaching around retrieving directly stated information, and I have some other students who require some focused teaching on reflecting on form or content of text. So I have my writing data or my composing data, and I have my reading data or my comprehending data. My possible response will actually require me to connect composing and comprehending data because I recognise the need to connect reading and writing and that they mutually reinforce each other. Some focused opportunities for my next learning and teaching cycle might include use of exemplar texts and analysing these for key features, identifying purpose and audience in a broad range of texts that students encounter in my class. I will be deconstructing texts and getting the students to deconstruct texts to explore text structure and organisation of key and explicit information and how it is arranged in a text. And I'm going to work on understanding inferring more deeply and how texts use sentence structures along with organisational features to give extra information to the reader.